dus gar magat Frank has sagt couple fotel malu shin the solagam gwilchi tilche a kakirle wal je clan mi hala khalan a wal je kushte kvnakan mi hala khalan hakta dali ordware aware ambassador agus a gina usle galer iger two agus clare nur a furus on Glia her an telephone o Frank Metcalf Maradurche chimplis mi o hin. Nir o isagam cadavir shulege, nir og she a iver agus a anam. An nir og she ein chapter tir be. An nur a gli me a rash do Frank, for me a mach, garau she eg torchdom Maradurche on unor bawo, a fejalum a glaculesh a riv. Mr. Chairman, members of the Collins family, distinguished guests, admirers of Michael Collins, ladies and gentlemen, as Frank Metcalf said, when he telephoned me on my mobile phone several weeks ago, he simply left his telephone number and his name, but he didn't leave any message. And to be honest with you, at the time, it was in the immediate wake of the second report on the Morris Tribunal, and I was besieged with telephone calls, particularly from the media, in relation to that particular saga, and I thought it might be yet another complainant about alleged Garda misconduct. But little did I realise, when I rang Frank Metcalf back, that I was to be accorded the greatest honour that I could ever have imagined. Frank was inviting me to deliver the annual commemoration oration from Michael Collins here in Bailnablaw at today's ceremony. Now, on a personal note, if I can be pardoned for a minute, can I say that my late father, who died 40 years ago, must be smiling on high at today's occasion, because he was a hugely ardent admirer of Michael Collins. He had seen Collins on a platform in Castlebar in 1921 with my late father's granduncle, who was then chairman of Mayo County Council. And my father was totally enchanted and captivated by the sheer power and the sheer magnetism of Collins. His personality, his power, but particularly the passion of his oratory. Now, a bit of history. I went to secondary school in St. Charles College, Tuam. And as a 12-year-old, the priest who was teaching us Irish at the time gave us our first essay. And it was under the title, On far bewar chunkar seal na herden le kuige blin anus. The man with the most influence on the life of Ireland for the past 50 years. And I asked my father, whom should I write about? And immediately and spontaneously he said, who else but Michael Collins? He was very good at Irish himself, and he gave me a lot of assistance with the essay, rhyming off Collins's traits, his achievements, and his influence. Now, the priest, obviously, who was a Connemara man, wasn't quite obviously a Collins admirer, because when I got my essay back a week later, it was scrolled all over in red biro, and every single paragraph of it was littered with the word "me ceart" wrong. And when my father saw that, he went ballistic. He absolutely exploded, and he took all 16 and a half stone of them over to the priest's private room. And he arrived back about a half an hour later with a broad smile on his face and the comment, that's so-and-so. And it wasn't so-and-so, it was the word that Michael Collins used to use from time to time. Got a right good lesson from me. He now understands his Irish history. 83 years ago tomorrow, at this sacred spot, one of the greatest tragedies in the troubled history of Ireland unfolded in a matter of minutes. The uprisings of the 16th and 17th centuries, as well as those of 1798, of 1803, the Young Ireland Rebellion of 1848, the Fenian Rebellion of 1867, and we remember here O'Donovan Rossa from this area, these were all vital expressions of defiant nationalism and defiant republicanism. But they all ended in failure. The failure was to achieve their immediate aim and objective, to rid Ireland of the neighbouring invader. the ruthless suppression of the 1916 Easter Rising, but particularly the execution, if you may call it that, of its 15 leaders, inflamed rather than extinguished in that spirit. Nationalist Ireland was on the march, and there was no turning back. But the big question was, who could unleash this spirit? Was there somebody out there who, learning from the lessons of the past, could pull together and could harness this huge upsurge of nationalist fervour for one final push and one final assault? After all the centuries of failure, after all the bloodshed of the past, would this upsurge end in yet another false dawn? But thanks to the vision of Collins, thanks to his determination, thanks to his intelligence, as Frank said, thanks to the meticulous attention to detail of one man, a West Cork man, the might of Britain would be forced to succumb, and Ireland, after 700 years of bondage, would be a free nation, and the dismantlement of the powerful British Empire would be unstoppable. Recognising that the might of the British Army could not be defeated by conventional warfare methods, it was Collins who devised a whole new and effective strategy. The flying column, the ambush, guerrilla warfare and guerrilla tactics. It was Collins who recognised that after all of the failed and isolated uprisings of the past, success would only be achieved if the movement became a nationwide one. And he made it a nationwide one. His motto was, hit them hard, hit them often, hit them where it hurts, and hit them everywhere. It was Collins's genius and planning that infiltrated the sophisticated British intelligence network so that he knew well in advance what their plans were and could counteract them before their plans actually got off the ground. It was Collins who penetrated the hitherto impenetrable Dublin Castle, the very nerve centre of the foreign occupier. And it was Collins's integrity, it was Collins's charisma that engendered absolute trust and confidence in the legions who rallied behind his leadership. It was Collins's extraordinary leadership, his qualities, that after 700 years of a struggle for independence, that led to the unprecedented situation where Britain, realising that now Ireland was ungovernable, Lloyd George came looking for a truce and came looking for a ceasefire in July 1921. It was Collins's realism that underpinned his approach to the treaty negotiations, that while nationalist Ireland had been liberated, as the late Cardinal Conway said, you could not bomb 1 million Protestant Unionists into United Ireland. Collins saw the treaty as a stepping stone, while the Unionist oligarchy in the 6 counties were certainly in no mood for doing immediate business with their Free State brethren in the south. The partitionist mentality and the partitionist mindset of the next decade, and I want to stress this, it was as much the fault of southern governments as those in the north, that there should be no contact, good, bad or indifferent, between the two governments, two contiguous governments on this small island of Ireland for 50 years is just so incredible and such an indictment. I know there was a visit by Sean Lamass to the north and a visit by Terence O'Neill to the south, and these were historic, but they were only small step forward. Partitionism, and the longer that it went on, it provided the space and the scope and the opportunity for blatant, ruthless unionist majority domination over the nationalist minority. The reality is that while Articles 2 and 3 of Bunreacht na HÉireann laid claim to the 6 counties of Northern Ireland, the nationalist government in the south for 50 years effectively abandoned our fellow nationalists north of the border. While our Desh speeches were littered with the mandatory aspirations about a united Ireland and Ireland free as a nation once again, the truth is that for years southern governments stood idly by in the full knowledge that the civil rights of the minority of the Catholics in Northern Ireland were being trampled upon. But I find it very difficult to believe that a Collins-led Irish government would have turned such a blind eye. While his first